Good day and greetings from Pretoria, South Africa. My name is Dr. Charles Cotter. I'm the Learning Navigator, the Change Management and Leadership in a Crisis online learning program, part of the e-learning series. This is an on-demand learning program and comprises of 6 modules. Each of the registered learners will receive a SlideShare presentation per module, and then also a detailed workbook which comprises the content, but also a series of learning activities, which I'll expect you to complete at the end of each of these modules. I think this is probably the best way of continuing this engagement and also to stimulate discussion between the Learning Navigator and the registered learners. As a form of introduction, I'd like to give you a quick overview of my professional pedigree. Essentially, I've been in the field of education, training, development for the last 19 years. Of those 19, 15 as an independent contractor. I've been very privileged to have worked for over 140 different companies, both in the public and private sector. And of course, this stretches across 18 different countries and 4 different continents. My area of subject matter expertise is strategic management, change management, and also strategic human resources management. Welcome to Module 5. Just to give you a quick overview of the 3 primary learning outcomes of Module 5, as I mentioned with my introduction, we'll be starting off by consulting the expert theories with regards to employee engagement, both American but also United Kingdom. And I'd like you to extract which of these employee engagement strategies do you find the most applicable during a time of crisis and also with the management of the remote working culture. So in particular, we've got to find a link between higher levels of employee engagement and improvements in the business performance indicators like motivation, like productivity, and ultimately individual team and organizational performance. We're also going to look at the talent and people management strategies that we can use to optimize the remote working culture. And in particular, I'd like us to consult Deloitte's Irresistible Organization, which is a model of 20 sub-factors, which I think is the best integrated talent management strategy that organizations can apply during a time of crisis and also apply for the employees who are currently still on site and those that are working remotely. Perhaps I could start off this module with a quotation, and again, I'd like to check whether you agree or disagree with this quotation. When employees feel respected and appreciated, they will become more productive, more loyal, and more engaged. And I think for me, the key word here is engaged as we transition to learning outcome 1 of module 5. And perhaps you could start off the session by a quick definition of employee engagement. Most experts will agree employee engagement can be defined as the emotional connection that employees have, number 1, to their jobs, but also number 2, to the organization that employs them, which results in a heightened level of discretionary effort. And of course, this is sometimes referred to as a metaphorical extra mile. Employees are prepared to go this extra mile for the good of the business, for the good of the company. And of course, this leads to significant benefits for the organization. Gallup, who are widely regarded as the global research thought leaders, in fact, their research has indicated that there are 9 business performance variables which are positively influenced because of heightened levels of employee engagement. And this ranges from everything from profitability, productivity, high levels of customer service, less absenteeism, less employee turnover. So there's a real and compelling business case for managers, both for the remote workforce, but also the on-site workforce, how we can capitalize on harnessing these employee engagement strategies. So essentially, if we have to summarize this definition of employee engagement, we often refer to the 3 S's, and that's, of course, say, stay, and strive. And I think when we look at say, this means that we convert employees into brand ambassadors who will always sing our company praises. They'll always have a positive message about the organization. And I think this is a very important breakthrough, especially during times of change, during times of crisis, and also a very good way of keeping employees who are working remotely, keeping them engaged and, of course, connected to their workforce. Also, stay is very important. So this speaks to the retention ability of heightened levels of engagement. And this is very clear when employees can see that there's a bright future for them to continue to work for that organization, then you will see that they are absent less. And of course, this is means less turnover. And of course, this is very good for business because it'll lead to heightened levels of striving. And this is, like we said with our definition, that discretionary effort, that willingness to walk the extra mile. And of course, this will lead to significant organizational benefits, especially during a time of crisis, when, as we said with previous modules, you need to create a critical mass for change. So as we said with our definition, the two very important variables that we need to focus on with regards to employee engagement is, of course, engagement to the job, but also engagement with the organization. And if you just look at some of the keywords with this current slide, you'll see the benefits of this connection that people have to their jobs. Of course, high levels of performance, more cohesiveness within the team structures, and of course, less disciplinary issues and less deviant behavior. So I think it's very important, I've mentioned this with previous modules, that the change leadership team almost become behavioral economists, so they're able to understand, they can do root cause analysis as to what the causes of this deviant behavior is. And again, Gallup are very vocal in terms of their research findings. And regrettably, the majority of our workforce is disengaged, either actively or passively disengaged. I think it's very important as a change leader that you're able to, with regular pulse checks, for example, climate surveys, to identify and pinpoint the root causes of employee dissatisfaction, which then leads to this type of dysfunctional behavior. The argument could be that proactively we need to facilitate a process of job or cultural fit. And of course, this speaks to the value of effective talent acquisition practices. So collectively, this constitutes heightened levels of engagement with the job, but we also need to view it from an organizational perspective, like we said, creating this culture of brand ambassadors. And if you just look at some of the keywords on the slide there, this ownership, this total buy-in, which we repeatedly said throughout this program is a critical success factor. Also visible leadership, the hierarchy of commitment that we've mentioned in previous modules. I think this is very important. And even the way that we treat employees. As we go through the different expert and thought leadership strategies, you'll see that there's a couple of golden threads, a couple of common denominators. And I think one of them is employee wellness and the way that we treat people. We said it, change leaders previously. We need to be compassionate. We need to be empathic. And I think it's very important from an HR perspective that we play a vital facilitation role, the diagnosis, the support, and also the coaching of line management in how they can redesign and implement specific HR and employee engagement strategies to optimize the levels of engagement. And of course, this is achieved through learning and development, through performance management and review processes. You'll see we often talk about crowdsourced performance intelligence, so the 360-degree performance evaluation processes, which tend to be very effective. And of course, we said it with change management, a critical success factor is, of course, the rewarding and the incentivizing of positive and functional behavior, which can then continue with the momentum that you've established in the initiation stages of your change management process. So I'd like you to tackle learning activity 12, and you'll see this for the first time is where I'm going to ask you to go online, and I've given you the SurveyMonkey link, and you'll see there are 10 questions that I'd like you to respond to. It's a 4-point Likert scale, and it ranges from strongly disagree, disagree, agree to strongly disagree, and it's a self-scoring quiz because it's just going to give you an indication of the current levels of employee engagement in your organization. And as you email me your responses, I'd also like you to identify, of the 10 research-based best practice criteria, where are the gaps. Perhaps 2 or 3 of the 10 would be adequate. And then, of course, you could recommend what the improvement strategies could be. The bad news for organizations is, of course, if you look at the research of Gallup, is that the majority of the workforce, in fact, anything from 70 to 80% of the workforce are disengaged. And of course, the concerning one, the red flag, is of course those employees who are actively disengaged. This is a real challenge for organizations in modern change management, because with the remote working culture, it really challenges organizational resources and also the abilities of change leaders to constantly stay in contact and create and sustain this emotional connection that employees would experience to their job, but also to the organization that serves them. So I think we can almost look at it at a different level. So initially we need to create this heightened sense of employee engagement, but I think the more progressive organizations are chasing employee experience, which is often abbreviated to EX. And I'm picking up more and more in the literature that we've transitioned. The best practice organizations are looking at the human experience, the HX. And I think that's very important if you want to be competitive and keep ahead of your market rivals, that you then chase the EX and also the HX, which is an extension which actually builds on the foundation of heightened levels of employee engagement. So please, if you could email me your score and also the responses, and I will reciprocate by sharing my global research with you in terms of the benchmark with regards to my findings of the employee engagement levels across different industries, across different African countries, for example.
This is Charles Cotter signing out. I'd like to thank you for watching the video clip, Change Management and Leadership in a Crisis online learning program. Please be on the lookout for subsequent uploads on my YouTube learning channel of the other modules. Also, please have a look at the chat box section. You'll see in the comment section. If you'd like to access a copy of the workbook in PDF format, I'll gladly email that to you for this specific module, but also the other modules of the various video clips. I'd also like to remind you to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Please press the notification bell to be alerted of the subsequent uploads of the other modules, and also like to encourage you to reach out and contact me. My contact details and social media presence will be provided on the screen very shortly, so I'd encourage you to reach out. And of course, I would welcome any sort of communication or feedback regarding this video clip or any other learning content on my YouTube learning channel. Thank you. I appreciate your ongoing interest and active social media support. Thank you. You keep well. Bye-bye.